And
Hello.
we're back. Hey,
All right.
All right.
I'm good.
On the air. You're live on the air. And you can curse.
All right. No cursing, no profanity, my friend.
D'Von. Twice in 2 weeks now. We're reunited.
Yes. It's been some time, but we're back, and you might get a whole family reunion together. We can get everybody together. That'd be great.
You know what? People keep asking me. They're like, "Come on, we got to do this. We got to get this together."
Well, the one thing about it is convincing Uncle Vince to actually bring us in there all together.
Now I gotta ask, working for Vince McMahon, first off, when you first went to work for Vince, how intimidating was that?
Well, he's very intimidating. I mean, Vince, created the WWE, and of course formed a WWF name, where his father had it as Worldwide Wrestling Federation, and created a huge company in itself back in the 60s and 70s. Vince took it to another level, and I know he took it to where nobody expected pro wrestling to go. You've had so many great names in the wrestling business, and for Vince to take it to the level he did, the vision that he had, no one had ever seen that before. And so, to his testament, it was a risky decision to go ahead and to do the first WrestleMania. And because if the first WrestleMania would have bombed, that would have been it. There would have been no WWF. And,
sure.
It's definitely said by those who were there and was banking on WrestleMania to actually make it. So thank God that it did, because if it didn't, none of us would be here. And who would have known if ECW would have been around back then as well? The whole wrestling business in itself most likely would not have had the popularity that it had today, because, again, nobody ever thought about stepping outside of the territories or even grabbing talent from other organizations. It was unheard of. You didn't do it. It was forbidden. And so here it is with all this history, and you walk into this man's office, and he's sitting there. It's very intimidating because it's Vince McMahon. It's the creator at the time of the WWF and has made it to what it is. And, of course, so many childhood heroes in terms of Hulk Hogan and so many others, Roddy Piper, he was the mastermind behind all of that. So it was very intimidating, but yet at the same token, you felt a sense of accomplishment when you walked in the door, because you knew that you had officially arrived in pro wrestling once you made it there. We were all happy in ECW. Hell, some people even tell you back in WCW they were happy there. But everybody, in one way, shape, or form, always wanted to work for Vince McMahon.
Sure. Yeah. How about when you and Bubba walk out of the office after that initial meeting? Do you kind of turn to each other and be like, "Holy crap"? Are you blown away?
Well, I don't think it was holy crap. I think it was, damn, we're gonna be rich. I think that's what it was, because the money that they had offered us, and on top of our guarantee, the money that we made, really, was more money than we had ever seen. And, Bubba came from a very nice Italian family that had money. They had it the old school way. They built it from the ground up. And so Bubba wasn't, a stranger to money. And I mean that in a very good way, because, again, Bubba came from, what they like to call, the old school money, the old Italian way, where, again, you came from Italy and you made it to America and you built your empire to what it was today. And Bubba lives very, very good. Me, on the other hand, I grew up in the projects. My mother was pregnant at 15 and she had me at 16. And we we struggled. My biological father, wasn't in the picture. And so it was one of those things where we had to fight for everything that we had. My grandmother was the fist of the family that kept everything going. And so with that being said, when you walk out of a meeting with Vince McMahon and he's okayed the money that you agreed on, it's like, oh my God, I made it in my speech at the Hall of Fame. And my mother was sitting there, and I said, you know what? We didn't grow up in the lack of luxury, but we struggled. We got through the projects. We made it, and we took a piece out of the pie and moved on up like the Jeffersons.
Nice. That's awesome. Now, did you guys think at either point, like in that very early like meetings, like, you know, because there was a bunch of the other guys that came out of ECW that went on to whether it was WCW or the WWE at the time, did you guys think like you might not get used right or might not get over with the fans?
No, and I don't think we did. Me and Bubba were always content on how we were as individuals in that ring and how we could perform. We always felt, and it's good to have this mentality, whether it's true or not, but it was always good to know that we felt nobody was better than us. We always felt that if you let us be us, we're going to make you push us. So there was never a doubt in our mind that we could go up there and really produce and show. Just give us the opportunity, and we would. And we proved that. So whether they didn't want to, at some point we felt they were going to have to, because we knew exactly what we can do. We were able to master the things that we did from learning from other talent that came in the ECW doors that were there during the Andre and Hulk era, the Flair and Dusty era. You had Tommy Rich, Tommy Rogers. You had Ravishing Rick Rude that came through the doors. You had Bam Bam Bigelow. You had Jack Victory, Rod Price, Doc. You had, so many other guys that came through the doors that had been there and made money. And Terry Bam Bam Gordy. You had so many guys that we picked their brains. We were in ECW for 4.5, 5 years, and we did nothing but absorb all the knowledge from all of the people that had came before us and that had made money. And that was the thing. Yeah, we marked out. I can't say we didn't, because we did. But at the same token, once we got over that and once we got past that, we were able to take from the learning tree. Ravishing Rick Rude taught me so much about selling and things of that nature. Before the doors would open, we would have people at ringside as Rick was teaching. Bam Bam, being in the ring with him was incredible, and how he would, walk you through things and things like that. He would also let you know that if you ever tried him, he could take you out. And Bam Bam was not afraid to to express that. So that was one of the good things. And then, being in there with Tommy Rich, Tracy Smothers, like I said, Tommy Rogers, God rest his soul. All of those guys learned. We learned both. We learned the WWE way, and we learned the NWA. We learned it from both sides.
Yeah, that was, so many people when I do like interviews and stuff like that, and they always ask me like about the ECW stuff in the locker room and all that, and I always tell that exact thing. Like, that was such an important it was like literally like going to school every time in that locker room, because you didn't know who would end up showing up or who was already going to be there. But I just remember sitting there amongst these people who grew up idolizing, wanting to be like, and here they are, and then you're able to sit, and everybody was really in that locker room was very open with all of us young guys, and they would sit and talk with us and let us ask questions, and they weren't, you know what I mean? They didn't, they weren't like snobby to us or nothing like that. They treated us with respect and were willing to work with us and teach us and talk to us. And I was kind of shocked by that, because I didn't really get that in many of the other locker rooms in the indie scene. And people probably didn't think you would get that in ECW, but you did.
Yeah, and although some of the guys, especially in the NWA, did not respect ECW because they didn't understand it, and they thought we were too violent. You know, we were Nevada. We were the Nirvana of the wrestling world. You know,
Yeah.
before Nirvana came around, they were. You know, you had the hairbands. You had Motley Crue. You know, you had Poison. You had Dio. You had Iron Maiden, who was not glamour, but again, that was heavy metal. You know, you
Yeah.
had that whole heavy metal generation that came in, and then all of a sudden, straight out of Seattle, Nevada, I can never say the name right. Nevada comes in and just destroys the whole business when it came to music, you know, to metal and all of that, and rock. And it brought in a new generation. That was what ECW was. ECW was the people that brought in a new generation. We were tired of seeing the same old say your prayers and eat your vitamins. And listen, nothing against Hogan at all, but I think at that time the fans wanted something different, and ECW provided that. You had young, hungry people that were ready to give their bodies and to give everything they had, you know, just to make sure that ECW was not going to be some third indie company that was here today and gone tomorrow. We were true rebels in its own word, and we were following the biggest rebel of them all, in Paul Heyman. And to be out there and to really say F you to the establishment, that was something huge, because no one had ever done that before. No one ever brought tables, barbed wire, fire, thumbtacks. You know, a lot of it was brought to the U.S. by Terry Funk and Cactus Jack, but bringing it to ECW and then letting us show the world what that type of life is in pro wrestling was all about, coming from Japan. It was tremendous, you know. And there was a shirt that we had that went out there, and it said ECW, politically incorrect and damn proud of it. And I think that really spoke the life of ECW and showed the people what we were really about. And I think from that point on, ECW was bound to be a household name.
Absolutely. Now, how about you? Like, when you were first coming in, when you were first approached to come in, like, what were your immediate thoughts about A, ECW, and B, like, the whole Dudley gimmick that they were going to bring in as part of it?
Well, first off, I was scared to death to come in, because I had watched ECW when I was bouncing at the clubs, and I thought it was just barbaric. Again, I was one of those people that was so used to WWE and so used to the NWA that I did not see ECW making it, because it was just so violent to me at the time. We had never seen anything like that, so I was pretty much scared to death. I do remember I had taken some time off. My twins were born. I had a little bit of a personal issue in my personal life that I was trying to get together. So I had given up on pro wrestling. I was not going to come back. I was going to quit. And I remember holding my twins in my hands one day, and I was bouncing them back and forth to get them to sleep. And I just remember they were quiet, and they were looking at me with their little pacifiers in their mouth. And from that point on, something happened in me. And I said, you know something? My biological father was not there. I can never say that I was influenced by a male figure that should have been, you know, my father at the time, but I'm going to make you proud, and I'm going to stop the cycle where it begins. And that's exactly what I did. And I remember from that point on, I laid them to bed, and their mom, who I was married to at the time, I said to her, I'm going back to wrestling. And she said, are you sure you want to do this? And I said, yeah. And at the time, I was working at the post office. I had a government job. I was very good. I had benefits and everything. So it was like, you're taking a chance on leaving a government job to go and do something that's a dream that might not even pan off. You're taking a huge risk, and you have a family.
Right.
And at that point, I just said, you know what? I've got to try it, because if I don't, I'll be kicking myself in the behind. And the thing about it was, again, the look that the twins gave me at the time, and they had to be about maybe 3 months old. I remember it just sparked something in me. I was trained by Johnny Rods, who also worked in the WWE for Vince's father. And I remember going back, and for about 5 or 6 months, he came out of his office one day, and he said, "Oh, my God." He goes, "What the hell happened to you?" He said, "Who put the rocket under your behind?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going to stop until I make it." And that was when he brought up the fact that he had trained Dreamer, he had trained Taz, and he said, "Do you know who they are?" And I said, "Yes," because when I got to Johnny's school, Taz and Dreamer had just left, so I had missed them. And so literally just missed them. And he said to me, he says, "Do you know who they are?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he says, "Good. Well, they work for ECW." And he goes, "Well, I can make a phone call, and maybe, you would want to go to ECW." Now, in my mind, I was like, "Oh, hell no," because they're crazy. But then the second part of me said, "Well, no one else is giving you a chance. Give it a shot." At that time, I didn't know the difference about TV and, what was big and what wasn't. All I know is I didn't know that they were on syndicate, like they were on public access kind of. I just saw them on TV, and I said, "Oh, my God, they're on TV. This is great." And so with that being said, I just went to Johnny, and I said, "Yes." I said, "Make the phone call." Made the phone call, had the tryout at the dojo in ECW in Long Island that they had the school at the time, and the rest is history. The Dudleys performed. When they told me about the Dudley gimmick, I really didn't care. I was excited that I was with an organization that, number one, that was on TV, and number two, I saw in the magazines here and there. So to me, ECW was big. ECW was big time. That's all I knew. So I didn't think anything of it when about the Dudley gimmick. I was just happy and said, "Yes, I'm happy to be here, happy to do it," and that was it. There was no, "Oh, I'm going to be dressing in overalls and, with glasses with no lenses in it and all of that stuff." At that time, it was a gimmick, and I knew it, and I was happy with it.
Dude, I had no idea you worked for the post office. That takes a lot of guts to give up a job like that.
Oh yeah, and I was doing good too. I was making very good money, and I got fired for being in ECW. They pretty much they pretty much helped me in a sense to getting me everything that I had to get. So it was very nerve-wracking.
Wow, I had no idea.
It was very, very, and well, not to mention, it was one of those things also that, I basically took a chance, and when I walked in there, I said, "Hey, yes, I needed weekends off." They said, "Nah, you can't have it. You have to be here for a long period of time." And I said, "Okay." And so every once in a while I was saying, "Hey, I got to take off. I'm not feeling well." And next thing you know, I came back and he said, "Well, you're fired." I went, "What?" And from that moment on, I had to do odd jobs, security work, and up until I found a really good job, believe it or not, working at Foot Locker. And it was great because Foot Locker, it had this baby store that was right next to it. Well, the baby store went out of business, and what they would do was they actually borrowed the baby store that was connected to the Foot Locker, and all that separated it was a gate. So they would be able to open the gate and close the gate. And I remember they put all these discounted shoes over there, and they said, "Hey, would you go over there and just keep an eye on that, please, and make sure everything is good?" And I said, "Yeah." I went over there, started taking inventory, things like that. Next thing you know, I came into work the next day. They said, "Guess what? That area is yours. That's where you're going to work." I was like, "All right, great." So I was basically my own boss. I did what I wanted to do. It was phenomenal. Not to mention my twin boys at the time now, who were about 4 and 5, they're they're wearing like name brand shoe Jordans, Nikes, and everything you can imagine. They were all the latest styles that came into Foot Locker. You know, all the Nike gear and the Jordan stuff. I mean, they had it all, man. Because I was getting it something that would cost $100. I was getting it for $30 from the discounted price. So it was great, man. I was loving every bit of it. And it was one of the jobs that I had that I felt really bad that I had to quit because I really enjoyed, believe it or not, working at Foot Locker. It was so much fun. And not to mention all the sneakers and stuff I was getting for like literally more than half off.
Who would have thought that? Like people be excited to be leaving be upset by leaving Foot Locker.
Yeah, I was very upset. I remember telling the guy, well, listen, you know, I remember calling him, I think 2 weeks after, and it was one of those weeks. I remember ECW, you know, we worked at the time, we worked Friday and Saturday. Before we went to full time, we worked Friday and Saturday, just the weekends, and then we had like the last week of the month off. So I remember during that time, I was asking the guy, hey, I'll come back and work that week that I'm not working for the wrestling organization. And they were like, no, we can't do that because we need somebody full-time, not part-time. But then shortly right after, ECW went from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it went Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then we were working every week, not just 3 weeks out of the month. And that was when ECW just started to explode.
Crazy times, man. Now how about going back to working with Vince again? Like, how different is it now? Because now you're working behind the scenes as one of the production guys. Like, how different is it working with Vince in production compared to being one of the on-air talents?
Well, it's totally different because you're working for Vince's talent, and you know, especially if you're a name, you know, you want to be able to make your talent happy. You know, and although you might not agree with the direction that Vince wants you to go to, you might butt heads, which talent does at times. But at the same token, you want the talent to be happy, and you need Vince to be happy as well. So you have to come to that happy medium. Well, when you work behind the scenes with Vince and you got that idea and you want to bring forward to make the story happy, Vince just goes, if he likes it, okay, great, we'll use it. But if he doesn't, no. There is no negotiating. It's what he wants, and that's it. There's no bargaining chip, which is good. I mean, you know, listen, I think one of the things with WCW that hurt WCW was that there was too many chefs in the kitchen. The minute Eric, you know, I think the minute Eric went into the NWO itself, I think that's when it started getting watered down. And I mean that in the most respectful way, because I think it took the emphasis off of him being the boss, and now it's one of the boys, and you can't do that. You're gonna be, listen. There's gonna be days they love you, and there's gonna be days they hate you. That's just part of the business when you're the boss and you're taking that type of, you know, leadership. We somewhat feel it as producers when we're on the live events because we're the boss at the live events. We're running the shows. And so it's different when you're at TV because Vince is there. Hunter is there. So, you know, if talent has a disagreement with something, they can go to Vince at TV. But when you're on the live events, it's myself and another producer that has to be the yes or no person. And sometimes if it does get a little bit out of control, and what I mean by out of control is that sometimes if you know, myself or the other producer is butting heads with talent in terms of the direction where they should go that night, we get on the phone and we make phone calls, and then it's straightened out, and then we're good to go.
Wow. Now, what's a more stressful day for you guys? Is doing Raw or SmackDown or a pay-per-view more stressful?
I think everybody says Raw is the most stressful time. For some reason, it's always been like this. Even when me and Bubba were talent, SmackDown always seemed the laid-back show. It was never stressful at all. I don't know why. No one could ever explain why, but it was just never the stressful show. Raw, on the other hand, yes, has nothing to do with because it's a 3-hour show. Because if SmackDown went to 3 hours, I think SmackDown would still be laid back. I don't know why. It just seems like Raw was always the one that, you know, it was very stressful. By the time you were done, you were so drained, but then you had SmackDown, but it was a lot easier. I don't know why. Even as a producer, you feel that way.
Now, how about like I think it was today the big news was coming out about Heyman and Bischoff being put on for the Raw on SmackDown. What were your thoughts on that?
Nothing. I mean, you know, you've got two great minds working behind the scenes now. You know, Vince is going to hire the best, you know, that's going to come in and help bring this product and shoot it right back in the arm again, you know, and I think it's a great addition to it. Paul Heyman doing what he did. Paul just needed a break, and Bischoff just needed a break. I think with these two minds coming back into the business again, and then with Vince, and then you got Hunter, and then you got some of the writers, I think you're going to see now a different Raw, because now you got so many great ideas that's going to come to pass. You got all these minds together. I think that's what we needed in the first place. You know, producers are there to give input and things of that nature, yes, but then you have the main writers. And I remember, you know, when I first learned about this, there was Vince, Pat Patterson, Bruce Pritchard. That's all.
Okay.
That's all it was during the Attitude Era. That's all it was. And they basically sat down, you know, right after, and they sat down and they wrote the show and they put their minds together, and sometimes they didn't go to sleep. You know, Bruce Pritchard will tell you about that in some of his podcast stuff that he does. And then, you know, when you sit and think about, you know, how they did things back then, and Patterson will tell you too, you know, that was just the way it was, you know, and whatever main writer at the time that was there. I think Russo was one, and then Russo left, and then Brian Gerkowitz, I think his name was, he filled that role, you know. So it was so many different things and elements that added to that. But now, you know, it's like this all over again. You know, now you have Bischoff, now you have Heyman, you know, and you got Pritchard, and you got Jeff Jarrett. So,
right.
You know, it's great again. You know, so all these minds coming together, sitting down around the table talking about the show, how they're going to write it and make it better, here you go again. So, you know, let's do the Attitude. You know, everybody wants to talk about ECW 2.2. Well, let's talk about the Attitude Era 2.2. Maybe you'll see that now coming back to come. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. It's very interesting. I'm very interested in seeing how this works.
Now, was this something that you always wanted to get in? Like, were you looking forward to the next phase of your life in wrestling, going behind the scenes?
No.
We're not expected to do this at all?
No.
Really?
No, I was kind of forced into it in a sense. I always thought I saw myself at the Performance Center, never at the you know, thrown right to the wolves. You know, Bubba and I, we were supposed to sign. Bubba and I signed for a year when we came back in 2015. You know, so it was up in 2016 of August. They came to us with a contract and they were going to renew it. And Bubba felt that, you know, the Dudley Boyz had done all they can do and didn't think we can do any more. Bubba had intentions on doing his Bully Ray character. So he wanted to branch away from the Dudleys and do that. Well, the WWE did not want that. They wanted both of us together. They didn't want Bubba singles. They didn't want me singles. And Bubba was really trying to do it that way. And so, you know, it was one of those things where, you know, there was a fight with the company to try to get us to sign because they really wanted us together. And again, Bubba felt that, you know, the Dudley Boyz were done. I was good either way, whether we were going to stay together or be separate. I was good either way. I didn't care. All I wanted to do was stay with the company that I fought so hard to come back to. Right. And I knew my role. Our role was to come there and to help get the younger talent over and pass the torch. You know, so a lot of people were talking about they were very upset about we didn't win a 10th title reign and they did us wrong and this and that. No. The bottom line is before we signed that contract and came back, we knew what our role was. And our role was to help get the younger talent over. So whether we won the title or not, it really didn't matter. And some people said, oh, well, you deserve to run with that title, this and that. Yeah, it's a title that holds a lot of value, but at the same token, we've had it. At that time, we've had 24 title reigns. So what was one more going to do? Well, it would have been great to have that one more run with it. Okay, and then what? It's still, we would have had to drop it at one point, and then where do we go? I think it would have always been intriguing to have the Dudleys keep chasing the title, and then never win it. And then finally, when me and Bubba said, okay, enough's enough, we're going to do it. We're going to do 3 more months or 5 more months, and that's it. Okay, give us the titles and then have us drop it. You know, we didn't need a long title reign. The Dudleys never needed the titles, and we proved that. We only won the titles to drop them to a tag team to make them, and that's just what we did. That's how we were, but yet we were voted as the greatest tag team in the history of this business. And again, not taken away from anybody that's ever come before us. So for people to actually see that and think that, you know, we were not used right in any way, shape, or form, I got to tell them they're wrong, because we were, you know. And I understand Bubba had, you know, he wanted to do the Bully Ray character in WWE, and he didn't get the opportunity. So he left and went his way, and I stayed. And again, I offered my services to continue to go in the ring. I didn't retire on my own. So I was kind of forced. It was one of those things where they said, D'Von, you know, we're going to offer you the producer's role. And I said, well, I'm not ready to retire yet. I said I would love to continue and maybe tag with one of the other guys that need help. Well, no, they want you as a producer and this and that. I said, do I have a choice? And they said, no, not really. And I said, okay. And so I tried it out, and, you know, we're here today. So, you know, when one door closes, another one opens. You know, I'm very happy to be in this predicament, and I'm very happy for Vince for giving me the opportunity. Did I want one more year before I hung the boots up? Absolutely, I did. But did I get put in a position that I can do this for another 15 to 20 years? Yes. So which one do you outweigh, the 1 year or the 20 year? You know, where you can make more money. You know, so the amount of money, I might have made big money with that 1 year, but think about the money I would have made in 20 years.
Right. Absolutely.
And you got to look at the overall picture. And I think a lot of fans today on social media, they don't get it. They don't understand it. You know, at the end of the day, yes, recognition and all of that feels good, but at the end of the day, recognition is not going to pay your bills. Recognition is not going to keep you in your house and pay your mortgage. When those lights come off, oh man, D'Von, I'm so sorry for you, but I ain't got no money for you. You know, so I'd rather listen to my gut instinct and tells me. It's not that I sold out, it's that I did right for my family.
And I didn't realize you got young kids still.
Yes. Yeah, I got young kids still and still having them, and I'm loving every bit of it.
Look at you. Now your sons, Terrence and Terrell, the twins. Now they're making moves, man. So like, and I got to ask, because people would always come to me like, you know, going through the, you know, the time and the scene back in the 90s and early 2000s when I was involved with the scene around here. They'd be like, oh, you know, my kid wants to get in wrestling. I'd be like, nope, don't do it. Nope, don't do it. Like I was like, you don't want them going into this business. So I ask you, like, when your kids came to you when they were really starting to be serious about wanting to get in the wrestling business, was you very supportive of it, or were you kind of like hesitant, like, oh, I don't know?
No, I was very negative. I didn't want them to do it. You know, they got corporate jobs and they're doing extremely well with their jobs, and I wanted them to stay in that. But I can't force them to do that. You know, it's one of those things where once you turn 18, you're going to do what you want to do regardless. You always use the thing, well, you're in my house, so you do what I say. Yes, but is that really cool to do? You know, because then he leaves your house, something happens, and he learns the wrong way, then what? When your son gets hurt, then you're going to wish you did. So, you know, it's kind of like they're going to have to learn for themselves, whether they continue it and be successful, or, you know, they try it and it doesn't work out, and then they go and do their own thing.
Right on. Interesting. So a couple more questions, and I'll let you go. I know it's your day off. The girls in the business are exploding.
Yes, and I'm very happy to be a part of the company when this is happening. This women's revolution is really really taking off. I'm very happy for it. You have women that can really go. Listen, I'm not knocking the Attitude Era. I'm not knocking the Bret and Shawn era or the Hogan and Andre era with the women. They were great women. They helped set the stage for today's women, especially the Attitude Era. No question about it. But at the same token, these women nowadays, they can go.
Yeah.
And they are more exciting than the men sometimes. They are, I can't say balls to the wall, but they are just ready to go. And they are basically tearing it up. I am so proud of the women in the WWE that, before when you would see women's wrestling, you would think, oh, my God, they're exposing the business. Why do they put them out there? Well, they put them out there for TNA. I know, but that's so bad. And it was like, well, they produce ratings because guys, who live in their grandmother's basement are basically whacking off and doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, and they should really concentrate on the fact that these women are really trying to go out there and make a name for themselves. And back then, that's what it was. But nowadays, don't get me wrong, I think men still look at them like, sex objects or what have you, but you can't deny how athletic these women are today,
Oh, yeah.
and that these women are going. And there's got to be a little of me that wants to think that even though you got Alexa Bliss, you got Charlotte, you got Sasha, you got Bayley, you got all of these women, you got Mandy Rose and Sonya and all of them that are out there that are hot as balls, you cannot tell me for a minute when you're watching them wrestling, you don't forget that they're, hot-looking women, that these women are very athletic and they're going at it, and they're now getting the proper respect that they deserve. And I'm so proud of today's women. They are tearing it up the charts, and they are doing a phenomenal job.
That's awesome. They are. They really are. It's really mind-blowing watching them now. Wow. They are going, and I love it. The reins are off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right, a couple quick questions. Looking back over your career, what match do you think is the match that truly defined the Dudleys?
TLC.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's no doubt. TLC. That's the match that people talk about the most. I don't get any other match in our career that is talked about, not even in ECW, believe it or not. They talk about the TLC matches with the Hardys, Edge, and Christian. I think the people, would love to see that. If Edge and Christian could still go, Edge with his neck and Christian with a concussion, it's hard. They wouldn't be able to do it. But if they didn't have those elements, ailing them, with Jeff still and Matt still going, I can still go, Bubba's still going, we were able to do that again, I think we would sell out a pay-per-view as a main event just in ourselves. Because the people are dying to see that. And, yes, you've got a lot of guys out here who are doing TLC matches now that are tearing the roof off and doing things that we can only dream of. But I think it was because of the storytelling we told in those matches. That's what really made us stand out and to this day made people remember. Because, man, I look back at it now, and it wasn't what we did in there with the tables, ladders, and chairs. It was the stories that we told with them. And then how we brought in Spike, we brought in Rhino, we brought in Lita. We brought in all of these guys and girls into the mix as well and still told a great story. WrestleMania 17, if you have not seen it or you just heard about it, watch it. Let me know what you think.
Who have you worked that pushed you the hardest in the ring?
Again, the Hardys, Edge, and Christian.
Wow.
We had a point to prove. We've had great matches with APA. We had great matches with Too Cool. We had great matches with La Resistance. We had great matches with DX. We had all these great matches. Balls Mahoney, Masato Tanaka, all of them, Spike. And, we had all these great matches, New Jack and Mustafa. But it was the Hardys and Edge and Christian that pushed us to the limit because we always knew that every time we got in that ring, we were making history at one point. Then we knew we had to keep improving it. So every time we got in there, we were trying to outdo the last match. It wasn't that we were trying to outdo each other. We were trying to outdo the last match, and I think we did it every time we stepped in the ring.
That's awesome. And the most important question I'm going to ask is to prove that you're truly, fully Italian, is it gravy or sauce?
Oh, it's gravy. Brother, I'm actually, from, Bubba's from Milan, his family. I'm from Sicily. When the Africans invaded Sicily, I was a product of that. So, that was my family tree. So I'm really Sicilian.
See that? Now we just proved it to everybody. Oh man, D'Von, man, this has been great reconnecting with you, man. Truly has been.
Yes, it has, man. We had fun, and hopefully we can do it on the grand stage one day again. And you never know. With ECW being as popular and people still talk about it to this day, Vince will probably get a bug up his ass and want to probably get us all together, and we could have it one more time.
Hey, I'm waiting. Let's do it. Let's have some fun.
You and me both, my friend.
Just tell them to have a lot of gravy for us because we like to eat.
Exactly. Brother, Lord knows I do.
D'Von, thanks again, man, for doing this. And, next time you come to Philly, let's get together.
Let's do it, my friend.
All right, man. Take care. I'll be in touch.
Take care. You got it, brother. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, there he goes, the one and only Mr. D'Von Dudley. Look at that.
Literally every time we have a guest on, I message you and it says, "Don't forget the bumper," and you never read it in time.
I was going to get a bumper too. I was